The first thing, of course, that any new Prime Minister will have to deal with is Brexit. So what is your plan?
Well, it's very straightforward. We are in the middle of a constitutional crisis, and literally nothing can be done until we get through Brexit. And the choice we have to make as a Conservative Party is who is the leader, who is the Prime Minister who is most likely to get us a deal that can get through Parliament and allow us to do all the other really important things that I want to do as Prime Minister of this country. And my argument is, as someone who has been a negotiator all their life, I've set up and ran my own business for 14 years. I've negotiated big deals in government, whether it's the junior doctors contract dispute, which was a very difficult one, the BBC licence fee, which was an incredibly short negotiation. I have that experience, and if we can get a deal, that is the only way we will avoid a general election. And you've just been talking about the Peterborough by-election with John Ashworth. If we repeat going to the country on a national scale, then we will see what happened at Peterborough happening on a national scale, which is the right-wing vote, the centre-right vote split, and Labour coming through the middle, and that would be an absolute catastrophe.
So what exactly would you do differently then, other than just negotiating a bit better? What would you do differently? Because the problems will all be there still, won't they, when it comes to Brexit?
Well, some of them will, and some of them will have changed, but we do have to learn from what went wrong before. And one of the reasons that Brussels stopped negotiating with us before was because they didn't think that the British government could deliver the British Parliament. And so I would put in my negotiating team a group of people with the DUP, the ERG, who are the Brexit purists within the Conservative Party, Scottish and Welsh Conservatives.
So Ollie Robbins would be out then, would he?
Well, it has to be led by politicians, because the people on the other side of the table have to know that the people they're talking to can deliver that majority in Parliament. And so anything we propose as a British government has to have that credibility. That's the very first step.
So what's the substance that would have changed? You said just before that some things would stay the same and some things would change. What would change?
Well, I had a conversation with Angela Merkel earlier this week at the D-Day celebrations, and I'm absolutely clear that if we take the right approach to this, the Europeans would be willing to negotiate on the package.
So what did she say exactly?
Well, she said that, of course, with a new British Prime Minister, we would want to look at any solutions you have. She said, up to you. She said to me, Germany doesn't have that border with the Republic of Ireland. You do. So you need to come up with a solution. It's absolutely clear that...
So what's your solution?
Well, it's clear that the backstop is not acceptable to Parliament. And so it's going to be a solution that's based around technologies, what the Germans call intelligent border. And I think that's doable, but we have to find the structures that reassure people that this is deliverable. And we have to find the mechanisms to deal with a situation where we can't agree on what technology is capable of. But if you're asking me as someone who's done deals all their life, is there a deal here? Yes, there is. And finding that deal is going to mean approaching the EU with the right kind of person. If we go in with an ultra hardline approach, we will get an ultra hardline response back, and then we'll get to the end of October and nothing will have changed except we'll be one step closer to a general election.
So just very clearly, come the 31st of October, our current deadline, if that deal hasn't been done yet, which if you're relying on new technology is, let's be frank, quite likely, are you prepared to delay or leave with no deal?
Well, I've always said that if the only way to leave the European Union was without a deal, then I would do that, because we have to honour that referendum result. But I would do so with a heavy heart because of the potential risks to business and indeed to the union. And I wouldn't do it if there was a prospect of a good deal. And, a wise Prime Minister...
Would you do it instead of delay, though, if those were the options?
Well, we don't know what choices we're going to face then. There's a very high probability that Parliament will take no deal off the table, as it did in March. And so we don't know who the new European Commission is going to be.
You won't rule out another extension.
Well, what a wise Prime Minister will do is take decisions on the basis of the choices that they have in front of them. What an unwise Prime Minister will do in this situation is something that precipitates a general election. If you say the 31st of October is a deadline, come what may, and then Parliament blocks no deal, The only way you can deliver that promise is to have an election and change Parliament, and that would be catastrophic for the Conservative Party, because just as in Peterborough, as we were saying, Corbyn would sneak through the middle. And the key thing here is Jeremy Corbyn is never going to deliver Brexit. I mean, you look at the Labour Party today, and it's not going to happen. So if we want Brexit, we've got to be very smart in the way we approach this.
Listening to what you're saying, you're effectively saying, look, people need to trust you to do a better negotiation, effectively. But I just question, some will wonder why they should trust you on Brexit when you have had a number of different positions. You voted Remain. You now say that you'd vote Leave if there was another referendum. Back in 2016, you floated the idea of a second referendum. Now you say you don't want it. In the aftermath of the referendum, you also talked about keeping the single market on the table. Now you say you don't want to be in the single market. You previously said that we'd survive and prosper without a deal. Now you say it would be political suicide. I mean, how do we know what you actually think on it?
Now, my position has been completely consistent. I didn't say no deal would be political suicide. What I said is going into an election would be political suicide. I've always said that we should implement the referendum result, and I've always said that there should be democratic endorsement of the type of Brexit that we do, and that's indeed what happened, because we had a general election where more than 80% of the country voted for parties that wanted to leave the single market, and at that stage the customs union, because that was Labour's policy at that time. The question now is not how you voted in a referendum 3 years ago. It is who has the skills to deliver a deal that is going to get us out of the EU before we have a general election. And I have those skills, and I am passionate about changing this country for the better in all sorts of things. But the one thing I would say is, as an entrepreneur, I want to fire up the economy. I want to help thousands of young people do the things that I did when I was setting out from university, and I'm excited to do that. But those skills are also relevant to the situation we're in now. You need to have a negotiator. This is about the art of tough negotiation, not the art of empty rhetoric.